Okay, catch my breath. It's fine. I'm finally alone for a second. All right. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. The first prompt is out. J.M. Gooding has Scriptorum ready to go, fixing all the bugs. Leron's got things under control. The Halls of Pandemonium is out. People are submitting stories. It's fine. It's fine. Everything is fine. Oh, hello! Didn't see you there. Oh. Sorry, you scared me, Viscount Valgrave. I'm sorry, were you taking a nap in here or something? Oh, no. I just enjoy long stretches of silence in dark rooms. Are you being sarcastic? Not in the slightest. Do you have any stories for me, by the way? I'm famished.
Hey, Rider guy, you in here?
Hey, aren't you the assassin from last week's episode? What are you doing here?
I've been hired to kill you again.
Isn't that funny? What are the odds? Who was it this time?
Well, I was talking to J.M. Gooding, and he told me you don't like hard-shell tacos. When I heard that, I told him I'd do it for free.
Wow, okay, well, maybe you can postpone killing me a bit longer? I just launched a challenge here in May.
Oh, you're doing a challenge? Is it like Flash Fiction February?
Yeah, very similar.
Well, why didn't you say so? I'm gonna go see how I can help.
Okay, but hey, watch out. Lord Devereaux's mansion's really easy to get lost in. Speaking of, I haven't seen or heard from Arnold in a while.
Where is the chopper? I need to get out of here!
Oh, Arnold, there you are. Did you get lost again?
Oh, Bradley. I've been wandering this strange world for weeks.
I saw you like 4 hours ago.
I don't like Pandemonium. I want to go home.
Arnold, we're not even in Pandemonium yet. This is just Lord Devereaux's house.
What? Oh no. I need to find some protein before I pass out.
Okay, you do that.
Bradley, hello. I realize you're busy, but I need you for a moment.
Busy doesn't even begin to cover it. What's up, Lord Devereaux?
I have just returned from the halls of Pandemonium. The realm continues to encroach on our reality. We need to act quickly.
Okay, what do we need?
Stories and poems. As many as you can muster.
Okay, is this something we actually need, or are you just hungry?
I'm always hungry, Bradley. But no, you see, Pandemonium is a realm of unstructured creativity. To behold it, and to eventually tame it, we must first give it form.
Ah, okay, I see. So, that's actually the focus of week 1 of the challenge here. We should have plenty of stories.
Very good. The Viscount will venture forth next week and report back. In the meantime, we should begin our preparations in earnest. Will you let your fellow writers know that the challenge has begun on your podcast? Draft Savers, I believe it's called.
Saved as Draft. It's literally just called Saved as Draft. Why is that so hard to remember? Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 67 of the Saved as Draft podcast. Today is May 1st, which means that my next month-long writing challenge is officially underway. The halls of Pandemonium are open, and the day 1 prompt is out right now. Every day this month will bring new prompts, and each week will expand the meta-narrative surrounding it further. Your efforts will make an impact. A weekly secret objective from the Viscount himself will allow you to potentially unlock a bonus 8th prompt each week as well, if the total number of entries reaches a hidden number. Failing to reach this number will have an effect on the meta-narrative, and the prompts will become more difficult as a result. So you're incentivized to try and reach it and participate all you'd like. Time will tell, but first I must once again thank everyone who has contributed to this challenge in some way leading up to the launch. Let's start with J.M. Gooding, who developed a brand new platform called Scriptorum to host this and other future challenges. including a place to host my engagement scoring system. And of course, Leron Haywood is back as well to ensure that everything is running smoothly in terms of scores and leaderboards behind the scenes as well. Also, Mina Howell has contributed both new art and prompt template images for our prompts each day, so shout out to her too. Those are really, really cool so far. I can't wait to show you some of the other ones that she's done. And then, of course, she is responsible for drawing Viscount Valgrave, and she even named him as well. So, really cool stuff. And, of course, I have to also shout out the Circus Dragon, who did new art of Lord Devereaux, including some pieces that I have yet to reveal. Those will show up later in the month. And I have to also say thank you to folks like Verdant Butterfly, Mary Ellen Brady, Ian Daniels, and Wendy Russell, who all sent prompts that I will be using throughout the month. So, please, let's take a moment and give them all a virtual round of applause. Now, normally I do a single community shout out here in the podcast intro, but this week I wanted to recognize all of these people because each of them had a hand in making this challenge happen. And speaking of awesome people in the community, I also want to mention my good friend J. Allen Winchester, who just launched a brand new Imaginings newsletter over on his publication. The first edition is called A Look into the World Tome, and it's out right now. Check it out for a glimpse into all of his projects, his upcoming book, and some exciting changes coming down the pipeline to his podcast. It's a newsletter packed with cool news, and you'll find a link to it in the show notes. One more announcement before we get into today's agenda. Two folks here on Substack by the name of Annie Beeler and Eliza James just recently announced a prompt series starting next week on May 4th that'll be right here on Substack. They've got 4 weeks of prompts for writers to check out, with theme switching each week as well. These prompts are designed to help you learn developmental editing techniques, so you'll get more than just a story out of these. I highly recommend checking it out, and of course, you'll find a link in the show notes. All right, and now on to today's agenda. So I've decided to switch to a bi-weekly schedule for interviews going forward. I didn't make this decision lightly. I've done over 50 interviews every week for a while now, but I'm trying to, again, as always, figure out the best schedule that works for me, works for the community, and of course keeps burnout far away. So scheduling interviews every week was just starting to really become a difficult task for me. So this way, with having interviews every 2 weeks, it'll give me more time to hype up the guests that come onto the show. And I'm hoping that the extended lead time will bring in new listeners and, of course, get the word out. So that's the plan moving forward, which means no interview this week. Today's episode will include all the other segments you're used to. Weekly shoutouts, Power Up Prompt stories, writing discussion, and of course a look at last week's Wandering Prompt winner. Speaking of, I will be pausing Wandering Prompts alongside some other things this month, like the Power Up Prompts, because we're focusing on the challenge, and we're going to be talking about stories from that here on the podcast each week as well. But don't worry, all that stuff that you know and love will return in June once the halls of pandemonium have been, hopefully, successfully shut. All right, lots of housekeeping this week, but now that we've covered all of that, it's time to check out something really cool that I have planned for this week's shoutouts. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's episode of the Saved as Draft podcast is sponsored by Pandemonium Pest Control. Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
What's wrong? Oh my, something has eaten parts of your manuscript.
Yeah, this thing is full of literal plot holes. Looks like those things from Pandemonium are back again. Excuse me, wait a moment. Am I reading this right? You want me to portray an insect? Viscount Valgrave, just read the lines, please. I am no mere pest. I am the star of this challenge. Well, I mean, that's partially true, but I won't stand for this, or rather, slither for it. Good day, sir. Viscount, please, it's just a sponsor segment. It's a joke. I said, good day, sir. Let's keep going, Lord Devereaux. I'll just cut that part out.
Looks like we need to call Pandemonium Pest Control.
You know what? Forget it. Let's just cut to the outro. Struggling with both literal and figurative plot holes? Don't let manuscript mites get you down. Call Pandemonium Pest Control, and we'll go to town. All right, and we're back. So typically, this segment features stories randomly selected from a weekly thread in my subscriber chat. Given that today marks the start of a new challenge, this segment and the Power Up Prompt segment will be replaced with a look at the top stories from the Halls of Pandemonium as the month goes on. In the meantime, since the challenge just started today, even though we do have some entries already, I'm going to shout out 5 of my favorite stories from the last writing challenge, Flash Fiction February. This will give you an idea of what to expect this month coming down the pipeline from the Halls of Pandemonium. So join me as I take a walk down memory lane. First up this week is one of my favorite stories from Flash Fiction February's Day 1 prompt, and it's For the Love of Hot Water by Mariah K. Porter. This story is about 2 lovers who find themselves on opposite sides of the battlefield, which is the prompt, but what made this story stand out was the hilarious and witty banter that Mariah included throughout. The story hits into the premise right away, and the way things escalate from anger to passion is excellent. It drops right into the action and leaves us with a satisfying ending by the time it's all said and done. It's great comedy, it's great characters, great action, just a fun story all around. Let's check out an excerpt from this Flash Fiction February classic. A siren sounded in the distance. He shook his head as he rose to his feet. Oh, no. You're supposed to be on my side. Let's get you out of that. Come on, hurry. I turned and swatted him away as he searched for the zipper on my vest. Oh, no. You've got it backwards, honey. You're supposed to be on my side. We both ducked our heads and dropped our voices as a horde of footsteps sounded down the street. Uh-huh. He grinned as he raised his eyebrows. Sweetheart, I know what I'm doing. I'll lend you my suit until we get back to the base, but you need to switch teams. Now, give me just a second, I cooed as I searched for the seams of the mask covering his head. It's been so long. Hey, what are you doing? He sheathed his gun and pried me off of him. Let's leave that on for now. Gunshots echoed from a few streets over. No, let's take it off. Let me see you. Ted laughed anxiously. Vera, I don't know what you're playing at. Let's focus on getting you somewhere safe. I stepped back, still ducking, and aimed my gun at him. Uh-huh. You're coming to my side. Fantastic stuff. I love that story. Our second shout out this week from Flash Fiction February is Mountain Music by Sarah Tinney. So Sarah Tinney has become known for her Flash Fiction writing skills. She was one of the top leaders in Flash Fiction February, but I've covered several of her bite-sized stories before that as well, and since then too. This one was for Day 15's prompt, which is a wild card that asked you to write a story set in my Synaptic Sprawl mythos. Sarah took things in a really cool direction here, incorporating Appalachian horror and an exiled one who was using music to make its way through our world. The story follows a warden from my universe as well, and it's just the perfect combination of folk and cosmic horror. It's a fun ride, and a reminder that if Sarah decides to join May's challenge, she'll be a force to be reckoned with. Let's check out an excerpt. For years, the warden followed the creature up and down the mountains, always one step behind. But then something happened. It was the early 1940s, and something was starting to change in the Appalachian music world. The creature discovered a banjo player. He had some natural skill, but the creature had learned how to mold him. He used the banjo player to create a style of frenzied playing never before heard on the mountains. There were whispers along the rails that this man had sold his soul to the devil to obtain such skill, but the warden knew better. The creature had gone too far. It was no longer a passive participant, but now used musicians to create the attention it craved. With this host, it refused to let go. The warden knew he had to act. The creature grew stronger, but its greed was its weakness. He reached into his briefcase for his makeup kit and disguised himself in denim, plaid, and a handlebar mustache to blend in with the locals. If anyone looked too close, they'd see the facade shift, but bootleggers and moonshiners were doing brisk business on the mountain. If anyone noticed his disguise slip, they blamed a bad batch and sought a fresh drink. The warden used his monocle, and the happy banjo player on the outside was revealed to be screaming in pain on the inside, as the cold tendrils of the creature held on tight. Limbs strained as they were forced into playing music no human fingers should be able to endure, and the creature was lost in the ecstasy of the adoring crowd. So much atmosphere there, and I love how Sarah in this excerpt here incorporated some of the relics from that prompt, and then of course the warden character. I mean, this was just such a good story. There's a reason why I picked it. It's one of my favorites from I was gonna say last month, but it's definitely been longer than that. How the time flies. All right, our third shout out this week from Flash Fiction February is The Playpen Incident by Rebecca Watson. This was a story for one of the week 2 prompts where I asked you to write about a secret meeting of assassins. Rebecca not only understood the assignment with this one, but she also featured a number of characters who share names with people on Substack. That's right, this story includes several POVs with names you'll recognize, like Joel the Brute, Mina the Ghost, Victor the Professional, and of course, Bradley the Rookie. Rebecca switches between these POVs, creating a super fun story that will have you guessing all the way through as you inch toward the edge of your seat. One of my favorites from the challenge, and not just because I'm in it. Let's check out an excerpt. My hands are shaking again, but this time it's rage, not nerves. You tried to kill us. I tried to consolidate the market, the man corrects, adjusting his glasses. 4 of you were becoming expensive, competitive, bad for business. I thought it more efficient to eliminate you all at once and train a fresh crop. Cheaper, you understand. Cheaper, Victor repeats, his voice flat. Economics, the old man says with a shrug. Nothing personal. Joel takes a step forward. I'm gonna make it personal. The old man holds up one finger. Before you do something rash, consider I have your real names, your families, your bank accounts. Kill me and a dozen emails go out. You'll be burned by morning. The room goes very still. Love the tension there, and then, like I said, that story switches POVs a bunch, so the pacing is excellent. It's an amazing story, and I love all the shout-outs to other Substack folks in that one. It was really fun. Our fourth shout-out this week from Flash Fiction February is Xenophilia by the Circus Dragon. Now, if I recall correctly, this story was Circus Dragon's top-performing piece at the end of the month, and one of the reasons she dominated the leaderboard for several weeks over the course of February. The balance in this one is incredible. The story juggles romance, mystery, and world-building effortlessly, and it does so while soaring as high as a dragon. It also includes a warning at the beginning that says, if you're happy and you want to stay happy, do not read. I think the closest comparison I can make here is Del Toro's film The Shape of Water. This has a similar concept with the main character being a human and the romantic interest being a humanoid sea creature. It really is a beautiful tragedy and a reminder that Circus Dragon's writing hits just as hard as her art. Let's check out an excerpt. Humans were fascinating. It was such a great pity that they had to destroy them, or watch them destroy themselves, she thought, as she reached a flask that contained a sample of the liquid that the humans would pour into the ocean after 3 suns. All for the sake of flushing her and her children out from their oceans. Fascinating. Territorial. Well, she did like a good fight. In the other worlds that they had seeded, they had utterly destroyed the civilizations that resisted them. This one will be no small matter. They would just have to multiply quickly and strike before the 3rd sun. But here was a human with a concept that she had never encountered before. He called it love. It was because of love, he said, that he was telling her this, betraying the entirety of the human race so that she could be safe. It was foolish. It was fascinating. It was... The breath hitched in her gills. The blood in her body stirred. Her children nearby grew alert, wondering if she was in some form of danger, for her heart was racing as she watched him speak. Watched as he pleaded with her to find a way to keep herself safe, tried to suggest ways to escape the poison, like hiding beneath the ice fields at the poles. No one had ever fought on her behalf before. No one had ever told her to protect herself. Over the past few months, this human had taught her many things about the human way of life. Simple things like what they ate, what they drank. Complex things like how they functioned as individuals, rather than living as one. Really great stuff. Be sure to check that one out. You'll find links to all these in the show notes. And our final shout-out from Flash Fiction February is the winner of February's Mini Devine Challenge. I, of course, refer to The Tourney of Fates by Mina Howell, an official Devine tale and part of Devine's canon history. That, of course, means that I narrated this story, or rather, Finton did, and you can listen to that as well if you check it out at the link. This was a story about how the dragons of Devine, long thought extinct, managed to survive in a way that I won't spoil here. This story also introduced us to the origins of Sir Reinhardt Brisbane, which was known as the assassin of the Dwarven King Brocknar in Devine lore. That combination of character development, high stakes, and of course, several elements of Mina's own Devine lore added in, made this the top story for me during February's little mini Devine challenge. Let's check out an excerpt, narrated, of course, by Fintan Marybrook. Many Krona ago, the dwarves found fossilized eggs deep in the Sunspire Mountains. This single act brought dragons back to the land of Devine, but it did not go as the dwarves had hoped. It was their original intention to enslave the dragons, but the dragons were not so easily tamed, as they were more than the bloodthirsty beasts that the dwarves believed them to be. The dragons fought hard for their freedom, which led to a war between the dragons and the dwarves, a war that the dwarves found themselves losing rather quickly. In an effort to turn the tides, the Dwarven King, King Brocknar, spread word of a tourney throughout the land. The mission was simple. The man who killed the most dragons would be the winner, and the winner would be named the official assassin of the dwarves, and he who held that position would receive untold riches. Men came from all corners of Devine to participate, but the two most promising competitors were Reinhardt Brisbane and a man known simply as the Stranger. It is there, dear traveler, that our story begins. Thank you, Fintan. All right, and surprise, surprise, I've got one more shout out for you all this week. Another Devine tale, and this time it's from Terrifying Tales, aka CJ Knight. This story is titled A Heart Isn't Born Black, and I am geeking out over that title. This is, of course, an origin story about the character CJ himself created last year named Blackheart. Now, I love this character so much that I made him the villain of the Order of the Pawn series that I'm writing set in Devine. That series is on hold during May, but I can't wait to get back to it. And this one is going to tide me over in the meantime. This story adds even more depth to Blackheart's character, taking us through his childhood and the moments that shaped him. I'm absolutely going to use details from this as inspiration for Blackheart's character in the series as well. CJ's character development in general is incredible, so I was so excited to see this. Let's check out an excerpt, and I'll bring back Fintan to do this one more time. The knight held the sword high. Calvian lunged forward with a scream, pulling at the leg of the knight. "Stop! He didn't—" Steel flashed. Pain ripped across Calvian's face. He hit the floor, clutching his wound as blood trickled between his fingers.
Grab the boy! He can die with his father! Cal, run!
I won't leave you!
Run!
His father's voice cut through. Calvian staggered to his feet, clutching his face to hold it together. He stumbled through the doorway of broken promises. No more warmth, or a full belly, or quiet nights. A doorway that no longer felt like home. Behind him, the sound of steel rose and fell. Calvian never looked back as he ran through the fields, their golden warmth dying with the sun, just like the truths he thought unbreakable when he woke that morning. He ran until his body collapsed, choking on tears. Wow, amazing work from CJ Knight, Terrifying Tales there. And that does conclude our shoutouts this week. Thank you again to my friend CJ there for that amazing story. I hope you all had fun revisiting some of these amazing stories from Flash Fiction February, and shout out to CJ again for that amazing Devine tale. If this is the kind of stuff we can expect from this month's challenge, I, for one, cannot wait to start reading the submissions because February was amazing, as you can tell. Now remember, the day one prompt for this month's challenge, The Halls of Pandemonium, is out right now. You can find it in the week one directory or in my subscriber chat, and tomorrow we'll have a brand new one to work on. Next up, we'll take a look at this week's Wandering Prompt winner. Welcome, one and all, to this week's Wandering Prompt Awards ceremony. Man, Bradley really set himself up for some pain with that prompt last week, huh? Yeah, he asked for a story about a character reflecting on the last time they were happy. Yeah, that's heavy stuff. Hey, when was that for you? Oh man, for me it was 5 years ago. I was at this all-you-can-eat seafood buffet, and I just got my third plate of shrimp. Ah, such good stuff. What about you? Ha, that's funny, same for me, but it was a Chinese buffet. Well, great. Now I'm hungry. All right, you two, get out of here. I'll take it from here. This week's winner was J.M. Gooding with the story Photographs. And I'm pausing wandering prompts during May's challenge, so this will be our last one here for a while, but let's talk about where we left off here as we get into May. So last week, J.M. Gooding's story that he had done made me cry in no uncertain terms. And so this week, he said he was going to make me cry again with this wandering prompt story, and I gotta tell you folks, I didn't make it even 5 paragraphs into this new story, and I felt the tears coming on. He opens with this beautiful introduction about a character who keeps a box of photographs in an old Amazon box. He knows these photographs so well that he can pick out which ones are which just by the weight and texture of each. Now, in true J.M. Gooding fashion, he doesn't just describe the photos. He takes us back to the moments they were taken. You can guess where this is going. And here's the thing. Anyone can write a sad story. What makes J.M. Gooding's work stand out for me, and what has always made it stand out, is the way he pulls emotion from every aspect of the piece. It's the pace of the story, the word choice, the sentence structure. Every little detail is designed to elicit emotion, or to pull you deeper into the emotions and the world that he wants you to experience. Now, I noticed this about his work from day one, and it somehow gets better every single time. Listen, at the end of the day, we may disagree about tacos, he and I, but I'm so serious when I say J.M. Gooding is one of the best writers that I've ever read. And now, I'll show you all why. Let's check out an extended excerpt. He picks up the photograph he has been avoiding. It's the last one. She's looking directly at him, not the camera. The focus is slightly off. The image softer than the others, like it was taken in a hurry or with hands that wouldn't quite stay steady. There's something in her face he didn't see then, not clearly, not enough to stop anything. It's not anger, not even sadness, not in the way he understands it now. It's distance. She's already leaving. He sits with that one in his hands longer than the rest, long enough that the edges press into his skin, long enough that the light above him starts to hum in a way he can't ignore. He realizes, not for the first time, but more completely than before, that he doesn't remember the last time he was happy. Not the last time he laughed, or the last time he felt something close enough to mistake for happiness. Those come easily, scattered and thin. He means the last time it was whole. The last time it existed without the shadow of its ending already inside it. He looks back down at the photographs, at all of her laid out in front of him. The rain, the running, the way she filled every frame without trying. It isn't any one of them. Sorry folks, Bradley just ran out of the room sobbing. I guess we're in charge now.
Yeah, I guess so. What's next?
I think it's the power of prompt stories. Okay, I'm back, and we're back. I'm good, I'm fine. I'm fine. So, we're doing Power Up Prompt Stories next, and this is the last one of these as well for the month of May. Starting next week, I'll be shouting out stories from the challenge here on the show, so look forward to that. This week, though, we had a prompt written by my friend Hazel Allen. Hazel provided us with 3 elements and tasked writers with creating a ballad as well. And they weren't able to review every single entry due to time, but they did send over their thoughts on 2 that they really enjoyed. So let's start with Hazel's thoughts on those, and then I will cover the rest. First up is The Tavern of Unfinished Things by Wendy Russell. Here's what Hazel had to say about this one. Wendy's take on our prompt focuses eloquently on the struggles of writing a ballad and trying to perform it in front of a tense crowd. Her ability to express those struggles, making it feel genuine, is top-notch, and it all lends itself greatly to her character's growth towards the end. This one also had some light, humorous moments in it which provided a nice contrast to some of its serious elements. Wendy did a great job making the most of the prompt she was given, and I love how she explored both settings in almost an equal amount, her office and the tavern. Hazel also picked out an excerpt that they enjoyed, which I'll read next. The noise of the room didn't disappear. It carried on around me, but something in it parted, sound skimming the fringes, never quite touching, until I was left standing in a space that felt cleared rather than empty. My hands had started to shake, subtle, enough that I could feel it. I glanced back toward the stage, the chalkboard still leaning there with its half lines, each one circling something I hadn't managed to say out loud. You don't have to force it, the bard said, softer now. All right. Second up this week is The Hush by Mary Ellen Brady. Here's what Hazel had to say about this piece. Initially expressing disbelief in her ability to write a ballad, Mary Ellen struck the chord on every level, creating not only a poem worthy of a master poet, but a story that interweaves each element of the prompt beautifully. If there's anyone whose pen is tapped with magic, it's hers. I do agree with that. Mary Ellen's story, The Hush, is filled with expressiveness and creativity. It explores self-confidence in a way that is uplifting and inspirational. To think one only needs a little bit of encouragement from one's own characters to embrace the beauty that is their writing. And Hazel, of course, picked out an excerpt from this piece, which I'll read next. I can't sing, she said. You can speak, the bard said. It won't. She gestured at the harp, at the room, at the particular kind of performance a packed tavern in a medieval fantasy world seemed to demand. It won't be what they want. What do they want? Something that belongs here. Beautiful work. And thank you again to Hazel for not only writing the prompt, but for sharing their thoughts on a few of the entries. Now, as you all know, I don't normally do excerpts in this segment. I usually do shorter shoutouts, but I don't want to leave our other entries out in the cold. So this power-up prompt section here will include excerpts that I've chosen from each of the ballads moving forward here, so we'll dive in and check out my thoughts on these. All right, our third entry for this week's power-up prompt is Other Conditions of the Good Life by Guy Craig. This was Guy's first time doing one of the power-up prompts, and you know I love it when I see new authors join in. So with this one, I really like the structure here. The piece opens with status updates on a package arriving on some future Saturday. It then transitions into the ballad, only to end with a delivery confirmation at the end. I really don't think I've seen this kind of layout before, but I really love it. Let's check out an excerpt from the ballad itself. Saturday eve in amber light. Ashtray words underlined. Bury me beneath my desk. Terminal yoke defined. Disquiet sand spins in an hourglass. Whispers of fears unconformed. In childhood I learned decay. Wan smiles, tears unadorned. My shame stumbles, chokes and sweats. A perfect fool, I lose my mind. Missed attempts are regret. Silence binds the song I find. Wonderful. Love that ballad. Fantastic work from Guy. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all of these. Next up, we've got Memories of You by Mina Howell, and this is another Devine ballad/story. Now, I was really excited when Mina asked if she could do a story set in Devine. With this one, we join a character in our world who is dreaming of the bard Fintan Merrybrook each night when they go to sleep. Fintan is helping her with this ballad in her dreams, and I love how Mina bridges the two worlds here, using that dream as the canvas. It's a cool concept, and it's executed to perfection. Not only that, but the twist at the end is exceptional for Devine fans, and honestly, I would consider this one canon to the realm. And yes, I know Devine and Earth are two different places, but remember, I've done one other story starring a soldier from Earth who gets transported to Devine, so we do know it's possible for these two worlds to collide. Alright, all that aside, let's check out a sample from Mina's ballad, narrated, of course, by Fintan Merrybrook. Through every life I live, I see your face so clear. The ones where we're together are always filled with cheer. But some are marked by death, by loneliness and fear. Still I feel you in my heart, and I hear you in my soul. Your laughter haunts me from within, can never fill the whole. The memories of you remain, though they still take their toll. Even when I wake and return to that strange place, I find myself forever longing for our familiar embrace. The love that binds us holding fast, it's felt even through deep space. So good. Mina's Devine tales never disappoint. Next up, we've got The Door in the Song by Sarah D. Encarnacio. Awesome to see Sarah in the power-up prompts again this week. She was a force to be reckoned with during Flash Fiction February, so I'm curious if we'll see her step into the halls of pandemonium this month. Only time will tell. What I love about this piece, though, is how Sarah wove the ballad into the prose of the story. It's split up into multiple stanzas, and there's some really strong lead-in beforehand where she sets the stage and takes us into the tavern from the prompt. Let's check out an excerpt from her ballad. There is a road no snow can mark, though many feet have passed, and those who take that road at night do not know which steps last. There came a rider stained with ink, his pockets filled with names. He swore he'd write what truth required, and never court its claims. But words once set do not stay still, where writers bid them end. They turn and gather in the dark, and call the tale to mend. Amazing. Love the rhythm there. Let's keep this train rolling, and don't forget, links to all these in the show notes. Our next entry for this week's Power Up prompt is The Hills of Peregrine by Vonnie G. Clemens Jr. And as always with Vonnie's work, there's a beautiful combination of style and substance here. We get some amazing photos of Cooper the dog, and there's even some videos in here as well. Vonnie went so far as to perform the ballad in the post, and you can listen to that too. I love it when authors go for a multifaceted experience like this, and it turned out amazing as a result. Let's check out an excerpt from the ballad. The hills of Peregrine, hey! The hills of Peregrine, ho! One won't do, and three's too many, but two will lay a man low. The bells of Peregrine, hey! The bells of Peregrine ring. One hangs heavy, one hangs higher, and both will make them sing. The harbors of Peregrine, hey! The harbors of Peregrine deep. Sailors come and sailors go, but none of them ever sleep. Now, I can't do it justice at all the way Vonnie did, so please check out the link in the show notes for the full experience. Next up with this week's Power Up prompts is Ballad Man by Hallie Jules. So Hallie's known for a writing that combines rich characters with side-splitting comedy and a wide range of emotions in between. That's absolutely the case here, and I love how this story took time to introduce us to the cast and really showed us the chemistry between them. There's this apprehension and nervousness coming from the character of Rowan that I really enjoyed. It immediately made them endearing, and I was rooting for them within minutes. Soon, however, shenanigans ensue, and Rowan finds themselves transported to the tavern from the prompt. Now, when Hallie's ballad makes its debut in the story as well, the moment feels earned. It's fun, but it's also the culmination of character development that we've seen from Rowan up until this point. It's just really fantastic storytelling. Let's check out an excerpt from the ballad itself. Grand illusions haunt my nights, ghosts of my wildest dreams, visions of you that never die, a sliver of hope agleam. And if I am too weak to stand, then let my words hold fast. My pen is stronger than a sword. I'll write our fate at last. You felled me with one heated look, your smile the final blow. I'll gladly languish at your feet, for I cannot let this go. And if I am too weak to stand, then let my words hold fast. My pen is stronger than a sword. I'll write our fate at last. So good. Fantastic work from Hallie this week. All right, and our final power-up prompt story this week is the ballad called Felix by Felix Thornfell. Felix mentions right off the bat that it's been a while since they joined a power-up prompt, and it's true, but I'm always happy to see this author's name. What I loved about this piece is how Felix brings in comedic elements and then weaves the prose in and around the ballad itself. I'll show you what I mean. Here's an excerpt. My fingers snapped back to the little wooden instrument and reprised the melody. Before I closed my eyes, I saw the red tip of a cigarette, familiar from way back when. My father, Remy, you made me tough and self-supplied, a craft I still employ, but doors that close too soon can turn a son into a man too fast. The music faded. My hands were untied from the puppeteer that fed the notes. Even the bard had dropped his shoulders. We needed a boost. The last time I lifted my head from the darkness was when... Oh, is she here too? My trembling fingers touched the strings. My girlfriend C, you held the line when nights went dark, and stayed when lesser ran. I should have fought the demons in me, but... And for the rest, you'll have to check out the full piece. But that was awesome. Great work from Felix there. Thank you to everyone who participated in this week's Power Up prompt, and thank you once more to Hazel Allen for writing the prompt this week. Power Up prompts will be back in June once we're finished with the Halls of Pandemonium. Next up is our weekly writing discussion, but first, a quick mindful moment. Hey there, this is Jill Bradley, here with this week's mindful moment. Here's a quote to consider. You need to realize that some dreams carry a heavy price, but if they're worth it, then nothing can stop you. Mark Fishbach, aka Markiplier. This famous YouTuber has been a long-known person for his inspirational quotes and his positive outlook on things. Case in point, I shared a TikTok of his on Substack earlier this week where he was talking about AI and how it affects art and creativity. It's a really good video. I'll link to it in the show notes, but this is what I had to say about it. I agree with him that a lot of the AI-generated content and art out there exists because it's something new, something novel. I also think that he's spot on in his video, saying that people will get bored with it eventually, as it becomes less about, hey, look how fast I made this, and more about, okay, now who's actually here to exercise creativity? Because creativity isn't all about the finished product. It's about what you felt while making it. It's about those moments when your neurons light up and your brain scan probably looks like the night sky if someone were to take a snapshot of it. It's those moments when the epiphany hits, when the characters that you've been talking to for so long finally talk back. It's those moments when you finally put that complex, messy emotion into beautiful, beautiful words. It's that brush stroke that makes you pause and step back to admire something that you made. The purpose, my friends, is in the process. Let me say that again. The purpose is in the process. We do this because we want to be successful. We do it because we want to be seen and heard, but beneath all that, we do it because we have to. We create things that would not exist otherwise. Stories, art, sculptures, designs, all of it would not exist if you didn't bring it to life. Creativity is who we are, and honestly, it's pretty damn beautiful, if you ask me. So, if you're like me and you've been feeling AI encroaching on your work and your creativity lately, just remember that human creativity has always been here, and it always will be. Thanks for listening. Back to the show. All right, and we're back. For this week's writing discussion, I asked you all how you handle endings in your work. You know the drill. If you take the time to respond, I'll take the time to read your answers on the show. So let's take a look and see what we got. First up, Mina Howell says, when it came to Ophiocordyceps, I wanted a clear resolution. When I realized what had to happen, the entire ending became clear. I'm speaking vaguely so I don't spoil anything for you, but it resolved in a way that I'm proud of. The ending is still hard to wrap my mind around just because I've been writing in that world for a year, and it's hard to let things like that go. But with my Inferno verse, the endings are less concrete, in that I have so many little worlds to play in there. I also want it to be a connected universe, so even when I'm done with Lucian's story, I can focus on another character. And thank you, Mina, for that amazing response. I have to, as always, shout out Ophiocordyceps. I have yet to finish the last couple chapters, given all the prep that I had to do the past few weeks for Halls of Pandemonium. So yes, this weekend I need to finish it because it really is incredible. There's 2 books in this series. Mina just wrapped up the second book, Ophiocordyceps Resonance. And yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. Highly recommend it. And yes, great points here about endings. Some are very clear, others less so. And when you have a connected universe too, you got to think about how those kind of lead into each other. So it makes sense. Next up, Wendy Russell says, ooh, this is a good question, and everyone will have differing answers. I'm a pantser when it comes to serials/novels/long-form stories. I might tentatively set out a plan, but as I write, things evolve, or devolve, depending on your POV, and sometimes run wildly from the carefully set out road I had mapped. The Murder Coat, which I just completed, was the first novel-length story I've ever finished. Before that, my stories would start off with a great surge of energy and plenty of ideas/arcs, etc. coming at me, but that would inevitably fade and I would drift away from the story, picking something new up, and so on. But with serializing here on Substack, that gave me accountability. It made me write in a different way, locking in like I never really had before. It made me write harder, if that makes sense, because I knew I had a deadline, forced plot arcs to reveal, and then resolve themselves or not. In the end, I wrote 41 chapters. At chapter 39, I had no idea how many more chapters there were, had no idea how things were going to wrap up. Events and dialogue literally unfolded as I typed. It was the most surreal experience, like I had tapped into some current of creativity and had somehow pushed my way through the veils that separate our world from whatever, and had been gifted access to a story already formed, already unfolding in front of me. I just had to keep the heck up. Yeah. I censored the ending there, but I understand where Wendy's coming from. Yeah. In terms of endings here, it's really interesting to think about endings from the perspective of someone who's a pantser. Like, I myself really am a pantser at heart, but I've come to see the value of outlines, and I've used them in a lot of projects in the last year, for example, including my novel that I'm getting back into. So yeah, but it's really interesting as a pantser kind of writer where you're in there and you're just kind of letting it flow. And what Wendy described here, that flow state of, you know, just kind of coming to the realizations as you're writing in real time, it is really the coolest feeling in the world. So if you are a plotter, I recommend leaving a little bit of space to kind of let things come to you in the moment like that, because it really is like the best feeling in the world when you have that epiphany. And that, of course, can lead to a fantastic ending. So great stuff from Wendy. Tina Crossgrove says, for me, my long-form process is different than short-form. The novels I've written have all been outlined in a form similar to a script treatment. Log line, character descriptions, including motivations and key beats. So I know what the general path forward is. Does it always stay that way? Nope. But it always helps me to create a loose and flexible structure from the get-go. Short forms are more theme-driven, in my humble opinion, and one would think that requires an even more rigid outline. I don't write them that way. For me, they're a lot more loose and prone to in-process, so sometimes the dismount at the end is the hardest part to write. It took me months to figure out how to end Mermaid in the Bathtub, and the ending is basically a F it, that's tomorrow's problem kind of ending. Essays are a whole different kettle of fish, as they are extremely structured for me and typically involve research. Yeah, so Tina brings up a good point here. You know, the way that you approach endings as a writer can and should differ between the different types of writing that you're doing, whether it's short stories, long form stuff, or essays, right? Like, I mean, I myself, I kind of pants a little bit of everything, but yes, there does need to be some sort of like unique approach to each one, at least to an extent. So that's something to consider as well. And I like how she describes, each kind of path. Also, shout out to Mermaid in the Bathtub. We shouted that out on the podcast the other week. I think it might have been last week. Great story. Loved that one. And honestly, I love the ending too. Next up, Sarah Tinney says, one thing I love about flash fiction is that you can end on a cliffhanger or twist without having to resolve everything. It's true, though. I mean, I feel like I'm guilty of that in my flash fiction. And I think stories in general, that's the thing about endings is that they're so subjective in the sense that you just have to kind of, write the ending that works for your story and just recognize that not every ending needs to be tied up in a bow, but that's what makes them beautiful, right? So, and yes, with flash fiction in particular, you really can get away with those kind of, cliffhanger endings. Or stories that are focused on a specific scene and not necessarily trying to resolve a wider issue, right? It's good stuff. J.M. Gooding says, I don't decide when a story ends. The story does. Sometimes it resolves, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the story I want to tell. Not all stories earn a tidy resolution. In some of my writing, the tension is the point, so cutting it off cleanly is also part of the point. That doesn't always mean resolution. I write until the story doesn't need any more from me. What I wrestle with is restraint. There's always the urge to explain more, to smooth out the edges so it feels complete. Most of the time, that's the wrong move. The ending has to work without being over-articulated. If I keep writing past the point where the story has already said what it needs to say, I start weakening it. As for how I feel, the tension that was there is gone, and I'm aware of what it leaves behind. If I feel the urge to keep going, I know it's not for the story. That's usually how I know I stopped in the right place. And as always, J.M. Gooding's answers are fantastic every week. And this one's amazing. I love this. It calls back to what I was just saying about how not every ending has to be a tidy resolution. I love that. And then, yeah, really listening to the story and thinking about, okay, is this where it should end? And if not, does the story need to say something else, or is it me trying to push it forward, right? Because we can kind of blur that line there as writers. So I really like JM's response there. It's a fantastic piece of input on writing endings. Next up, Bent But True says, most of the time my stories have no conclusions, no tidy endings. I want the reader to walk away working to draw their own conclusions. My wife always gets angry. She says my stories make her head hurt. She wants a complete happy ending. But for what I write and why I write, a tidy ending takes away from what I'm trying to achieve. And he throws a shrug emoji on the end there. Yeah. No, and I think that's the other thing too, is like as writers, we know kind of what's best for the story. And yes, happy endings are great, but they're not always what's right for the story. And especially knowing what I know about Ben Petru's work, it's very grounded, it's very character driven. And yeah, there's not always a good ending to those kind of things, right? And I can definitely feel in Ben Petru's work the focus on trying to give readers things to chew on, to take away, and to think about after the fact. So yeah, that can be a lot for some readers. I also get where his wife's coming from. But, again, we have to respect the story itself and the story that we're trying to tell. And I myself, I try to vary my endings for that reason, because I know, in some cases people really do want that happy ending, which is why, I'm always talking about branching narratives, like what I do with audio mazes and the branching narrative audio dramas. Those are really fun because I get to kind of explore the full spectrum of the endings, right? Like a lot of stuff I work on there will have between 3 to 5 to, even more endings. And that allows me to have the classic happy ending, the neutral ending, the bad ending, and some stuff in between. And it's fun, and I like that. But yeah, I mean, most stories do only have one ending, so. All right, last but not least, J. Allen Winchester came in here and says, scroll to it. Well, part of my development process is that I need to know where this is all leading to. What is the end game? What is the moral of the story? What do I want my adventurers to take away with them when they put the story down? Where do I want the characters to be when all is said and done? I often compare my plotting process to planning a road trip. I have a destination in mind and a general path ahead, but surprise stops along the way are welcome. Everything leads up to that destination. So when I think about endings, I try to consider what would bring closure to the story I'm telling. When I was developing the Triad sagas, I had a rough idea of where each story was going. Eclipse was a moon myth, so it would end when I established the balance between light and darkness. Nature Calls was about Jamie finding her connection to the world as a whole, and I wanted it to feel like the folklore I had taken inspiration from. Dodecatheon was a world tearing apart on the brink of total devastation, and I needed to come up with a way to address the relationship between humanity and the divine. I kept these things in mind while I was world building and character developing for years, and one by one, the endings bubbled to the surface. I originally thought the Eclipse ended on book 3, but as I was writing the outline for it, I realized this wasn't truly balanced. It was a temporary solution, so the 4th book was fleshed out. I could feel the difference in tone and purpose, and that was when I knew my first saga would end. Nature Calls took a bit longer to discover the ending because, like Jamie, I didn't want the adventure to end. However, when I got kicked out of bed at 4 a.m. by one of my goddess patrons, I was reminded of the intention of this tale. It was a maelstrom of emotions as it sunk in where my characters were headed, especially after the ending of Summer was on such a high, but when the climax was so vivid in my mind's eye, I knew the ending and the epilogue to close the saga. Dodecatheon was like a crazy relationship, on and off again, bad communication with characters, and conflicting sources of information dragged out the development process. I actually wrote the first half of Artemis without knowing the ending just to get something down when I finally figured out the motivations of the characters. However, it was through the stardust of a commitment on Inkit that made me look at King Zeus 5 in a different light and change the whole course of the epic. I saw what Artemis was being drawn toward. I saw why David and Adam had been knotted on her string. I actually envisioned the loom of fate across the ages, and the Moire's threads were growing shorter and shorter as though the end was coming. That was when I knew the ending, and the saga exploded into the 12 installments I dreamed they would be. So now I have rambled on for too long. I guess I saw that I planned my road trips with my characters, so we have a destination in mind, and as we explore the scenery and tourist traps along the way, okay, bye. Not too long at all. I love how Jaden's responses every week always take this like really nice in-depth look at how the discussion topic applies to him and his work. And I love the examples too. The examples are great here, and all of these are just perfect. I gotta say, my favorite part definitely was the metaphor of the road trip. I think that's a beautiful way of describing this nice balance between plotting and pantsing, in the sense that you know where the story's going, you know the general direction, but you're willing and looking out for those opportunities to kind of stop, as Jaden said, along the way. So really good stuff. Fantastic answers, as always, from everyone this week. Next up, we'll take a look at next week on Substack, and of course, an update on my in-progress novel. All right, everyone, so let's start with the novel update. My cosmic horror novel, currently titled For Those About to Vote, and final title TBD, is one of the most ambitious and significant projects that I have taken on as a writer. It began as a short story back in 2016, and it's something that I come back to over and over in the years since then. This past week, I dove back into the outline for the book, which of course includes 6 different POVs, and this was the first time I'd looked at the outline specifically in 3 years. I did this because, number one, I promised everyone on the show here that I would work on it, but also I was planning to show the outline to my writing group that I attend every Thursday. And folks, We met last night to go over this outline, and I just have to take a minute to shout out the incredible people in this writing group that I attend. Their feedback was nothing short of incredible. Not only did they all seem to love the story and the concept, but they asked meaningful questions, they offered phenomenal pathways forward for me to consider, and they also had conflicting opinions on things, which was really cool. It allowed me to kind of consider multiple sort of, inputs in that way. And of course, everyone was respectful with their feedback, and it was awesome to see them kind of debate each other about what the better, option was, if at all. So anyway, just really, really great people, great group, great feedback. I feel really good about the story. One of the things that I'm thinking about as I get back into it too, and this is from last night's feedback, is I'm thinking about, what is the story trying to say beneath the actual story, right? Beneath the cosmic horror, beneath these characters and their individual struggles. What is really the takeaway here? The themes that I'm trying to impart upon the reader. And that is such an important part of a story, that's big like this. It really needs to have a purpose. It has to have intention behind it. And it's been so long since I've written a full-length novel, I kind of lost sight of that. And I think that's why this project has been hard for me to get back into. I'm not connecting to that emotion of it, right? Like, I know the characters are good, I know the premise is good, and I know the concept is good, but it's the story that doesn't feel like it's a living, breathing thing, at least not yet, right? So I'm putting some thought into that. I've already got some ideas. I've got some ideas on how to get back into the working draft that I started, that I've been working on for years. Lots of good stuff, and I do plan on showing the group more of the book as time goes on. And I just got to say again, these are some just incredible people, incredible writers. If you ever need feedback, I can vouch for any of them. And so not all of them are here on Substack, but I am going to tag everyone who is in my group on Substack, so you can go check out their work and subscribe. But please give me a second here to have a virtual round of applause for the following writers: Wild K. Nebula, Richard Pack, Daria Pack, Daniel Coates, Traven R., and Wilhelmina Owings. These are all people in the writing group, and seriously, some of the best people I've ever met. So when my book finally gets published and I get through this struggle with this project, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be because of support from people like them. So please show them some love. They really deserve it. All right, let's talk about next week on Substack. So we'll be diving right into the halls of pandemonium. We've got daily prompts, and of course, next podcast, the following Friday from this one, will feature the first leaderboard, so we'll have a look at that. And yeah, I'm just going to be focused on making sure the challenge is running smoothly alongside J.M. Gooding and Leron Haywood. And I might try to get a few entries of my own in. We'll see. I don't know. Time is funky, as we all know. And of course, I have the novel to work on. But hey, thank you so much for being here and for listening and supporting the podcast. And of course, my challenges as well. If you're listening right now on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate a comment, a like, a review, or anything else that you can do to engage with it, because it does help the show grow and find new listeners. But that's all I've got for you this week. I hope you enjoy the Halls of Pandemonium event as it goes on and all the new prompts I've got coming your way. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all a safe and productive week of writing. This is Bradley Ramsey, signing off.
Bradley, we found this here.
Oh, hey, you two, where have you been?
We wrote this an entry for the Pandemonium Challenge.
Oh, that's great. What's it called?
It's called The Hobbit.
Okay. I'm going to assume and hope that name is just a coincidence. Let's take a look.